Welcome back everybody to another comic video. As most of you are probably aware by now, Disney Plus Day came out, it came past, and we have a whole bunch of new Disney Plus projects coming out. A lot of these we already know, some of them are just speculation rumors, but you know, they did announce quite a bit. So what I figured I'll do is probably just go over some keys, specs, maybe one or two books from each of the shows and see how they're doing and maybe what's the forecast and whatnot. So let's get started. The first one I think will be coming out before any of these other shows. I think is She-Hulk. So let's look at She-Hulk real quick. All right, so you can see here the main book you're going to want to get is the Savage She-Hulk #1. It's a Copper Age book from 1980. There are a lot of these out there. As you can see, the last CGC 9.8s sold for $1,150, which is actually down a little bit from what it was at its peak, because I think at its peak it was maybe $1,500-$1,600 or something like that. But now that the show is out, this should see a little bit of a spike. You know, if you watch my previous video, when the trailer drops, that's usually the peak. But maybe because of such a long layoff, maybe the peak was before when they kind of originally announced it, but we'll see. It has crept up to $1,150. Let's see if it gets back to the $1,500-$1,600 mark. I don't think it'll get that high because you could see here there are 2,264 9.8s on the census, and before the announcement, you know, there weren't that many of these out there that were being graded, sent in. You know, it was kind of on the back burner. But then once they announced it, you know, a lot of these just got submitted. So a lot of them are coming back. There's going to be a lot more out there. So we'll see if the demand will keep up with the supply. But I suspect this won't reach that $1,500-$1,600 mark unless this show is really good and it's going to persist for season 2 and She-Hulk's going to be a mainstay in the MCU. But I wouldn't go below a 9.4 on this because there are so many of them. From 9.4 to 9.8, that's like the majority of all the high grades that you can ask for. So it's fairly easy to acquire. I wouldn't be overpaying on these just because there's a lot of them being submitted and being sent back graded. So near mint should be pretty easy. You could see it's $314 for a 9.4. A raw FMV is about $152, but if you want a high grade one, it's going to be about $350 or more. I don't know if I'd pay that much, because if it's only going to come back at 9.4, 9.6, and you're paying $350 and you have to get it pressed and you have to get it graded, shipped, insured, all that, you might as well just buy the 9.6 at like the whatever $600, $500 mark, because you're also taking a chance at this only coming back at a 9.4. So and just a little aside here, just a little report on my first copy that I sent in. I have 5 copies. This is the first one that came back. This was when, you know, I first really got back into it, so I really wasn't sure. This was part of a full run, almost a full run. It was like 1 through 16, and I think I paid almost $200 for the entire lot or something like that. But it came back. This came back at 9.5. And when they announced that the Disney Plus Day was going to happen, I just put this up because I know I have better copies coming back. I don't think I'm going to get anything below a 9.2 or 9.4, but we'll see, right? And I do have a couple newsstands on there. But just to show where this is at for this grade, I paid total $156.58. That's cost of the book, pressing, grading, shipping, insurance, everything. And I sold it for, it actually sold for $240, but with all the fees and shipping and all that, my net profit is my net is $205.70. So I gained $49 on this, so it's not bad for a 31.37% ROI. And you know, it took basically 8 months from when I got it to acquiring it to sale. So not too bad, but again, it is an 8.5. So I'm sure a lot of people out there will want to get the higher grades. So if you're going to pay $240 for this, you might as well just bump up a little bit more and get like a 9.4 or whatever. So, all right, so let's look at the next show. And it's Werewolf by Night. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Moon Knight Show, the Moon Knight Show. It's one of the more anticipated shows that since its announcement. Moon Knight's a very popular character. As you can see, his first appearance here is Werewolf by Night number 32. And it's a Bronze Age book from 1975. This is very expensive to get in right now. And it just continues to rise and rise and rise. I think that most people, the average person, will be priced out on this. Because you can see an 8.5 is $4,800. A 6.0 is $2,200. And a low grade 4.0 is $1,500. And if you're trying to get this raw and trying to get this graded, you can see the average raw FMV is $36.80. You might as well get an 8.0 or higher, and just, instead of taking the chance at this a raw for $36.80. I think that's ridiculous. I also think that this is gonna be going up even more as we get more and more information from the show. But rumors have it that this will be one of the tentpole mainstays, whatever, of like that part of the MCU, because there's Blade is going to be there, maybe. There's rumors of Werewolf by Night. You already know that Moon Knight's there. Dracula, maybe. So that whole like horror stuff from back in the Bronze Age era seems to be, Ghost Rider's one of those too. So this is the beginning of it, and people are just very excited. And like I said, Moon Knight's just a popular character, a little bit more popular than She-Hulk. There's also less of this out there in terms of the graded stuff, but a lot of people are getting them graded, so it's gonna be going up, obviously. But if this is too high, which I suspect it is for a lot of people, the next best is Moon Knight number 1, the first ongoing series from 1980, Copper Age book here. You can see it's the first appearance of Bushman. But interesting thing, I did see on the casting and on the IMDb, or just like if you just look up the Moon Knight cast, there's someone that was cast as Bushman for the show. So this could be a double key, because it's the first ongoing series for Moon Knight, and it's the first appearance of Bushman, who's a villain. So the CGC 9.8, you see this, it's at $910 right now. It's probably going to hit that $1,000 mark easy, especially when they confirm that Bushman is there. 9.6 is $280. You can see the big drop because just like the She-Hulk book, if it's from 1980, it's a little bit easier to get a high grade, so you might as well try to get it in higher grade if you can, as opposed to things that are from the 70s and 60s. 9.6, 280, like I said, and 9.4 is 200. The raw FMV on this is $100, which is pretty good, because you can still get these in high grade in the raw right now. And you can see if you get them high grade raw, they're $200. So unless you know for a fact, or I guess you won't know for a fact, but if you're like 99% sure that what you're getting raw is a 9.8, $200 to $300 is worth it, because if it's a 9.8, it's going to be over $1,000. Otherwise, if you're going to pay $200 for it raw, you might as well pay $280 to get that 9.6, right? And like I said, just like the She-Hulk, since it is from the Copper era, it's easier to acquire, and there are a lot of them being graded and a lot of them being sent in and coming back. You can see mine is right over here in the 9.8. I did not get this raw and get it graded. That would have been awesome. But I did get this a few months ago for $700. So I want to say maybe 3 or 4 months ago. And now it's it's going to pay off, because it's going to be over $1,000. And once the Werewolf by Night 32 becomes way out of most people's price range, this is the one to get. So And of course, there's the newer ones that have like the Mr. Knight, and from the 2000s, even like 2015, 16, 17, whatever. But you want to get the older one, this is the one to get. All right. And then the last one for this episode here, because we're going to break it up into 3 episodes, because I don't want to make this like a 20-30 minute video, is Miss Marvel. Kamala Khan. They showed the first look at it. They showed like a little mini trailer, teaser, and you can see here her first full appearance is all new Marvel Now .1, number 1. It's weird. You can see it's first full appearance of Miss Marvel. It's obviously a modern book from 2014. This has been really, really high, and then it dipped a little bit, but now it's kind of rebounded back up. But ever since they did the announcement, I want to say her 9.8, the 9.8 of this book was $2,000 or so, and it dipped a little bit once it, out of sight, out of mind, and then now that she's back, this is rebounded back up to 1,700. Because I want to say it was a little bit lower than this, 1,500, but now it's up to 1,700 for 9.8, and you can see the difference too from 9.8 to 9.6. $500 for 9.6 and 9.8, 1,700. That just shows you, because it is a modern book, there are a lot of 9.8 quality books out there, because that's when people are keeping them in good condition and really only submitting a 9.8, 9.6. But you can see it's like a third of the price of a 9.8, so it really is worth that $300 price tag if you can get it a high grade raw, and you can pretty much make sure it's a 9.8, even if it's a 9.6, because if you're paying $300 or so and the 9.6 is $500, you're still a pretty good return. It's probably going to go up even more. I wouldn't go below a 9.9, 9.4, because it's 300. That's a 309. Because like I always say, when it comes to the modern books, past the year 2000, you should if you're going to get graded stuff, it should only be 9.4s and up, at least in my opinion, right? And just the raw FMV in this is $219. So you might as well spend a little bit more, make sure it's a high grade if you want to get that up there. And the 9.8 census for this is kind of low for what the year that it came out in. So it'll probably go up more as more people submit and get it graded. But also, I think this book just didn't have that much fanfare to begin with when it came out. But if the show is good and she sticks around, which I think she will, because she's also slated for the Marvels, the Captain Marvel 2 movie. I think it's called The Marvels now. So this will probably be getting up there to that $2,000 mark. So if this gets a little too high, which I can already see it can get there once the show will be releasing, the 9.8's just too much, and then 9.6 will just keep going up. The next best is Miss Marvel #1. You can see here the first ongoing series, modern, from the same year, 2014. But be careful, because the 9.8 on this is starting to climb. It's $700 and going up. And I want to say, not too long ago, this was maybe like a $300-400 9.8. But I think a lot of people are moving to this because it is harder to get a 9.8 in her first full appearance, and also the price. The raw FMV in this is $110, high grades $150 or more, so it's probably worth it to get the high grade, because this is easier to get a 9.8, because I have a couple of these, and this is also kind of that era where the quality is a little bit better. Of course, the binary tears are still going to be there, but it's easier to see these in 9.8 because obviously it's in 2014. And it has been steadily going up, like I said, and this will only keep going up because, once the other one hits the $2,000, $2,500 mark, this will be the one to get. So, all right, well, that's the first 3 shows that I think they're going to be coming out first, because they already showed us a trailer for all 3 of them, teaser trailers, right? They showed us a little teaser for She-Hulk, teaser for Moon Knight, and a little teaser for Miss Marvel. So these are the first 3 projects that are shows that are coming out. So that's how we start with these 3. But I think, as with most of the Disney Plus stuff and just MCU, it's kind of pointless for them to just make it a one and done even if they're only gonna have one season of a show, just to not use that character anymore when they've invested so much into it, it's worth just keeping these for the long term. We're talking years. When we get to the Agatha Harkness, that's a good example when I get to that. But unless they like really kill them off or something, kind of like the Mandarin in Shang-Chi, if he is really dead, they're not going to be burning all these characters because they have a lot of story to tell and they want to have enough for X amount of years before they have to move on to another character, right? Because if they keep burning these characters really quick, going through them, they're not going to have any more, even though they have a lot. But people, they want to get attached to these characters, so they want to keep going with them. So, all right, well, that's the first of 3 episodes here, and we'll be back for the next one. All right, thanks for watching.